Bottom line is like nature is for everybody. Everybody should have access to beautiful outdoor spaces. And so just how can we work together to try to make that happen?
This show is brought to you by Mountain Rose Herbs. Mountain Rose Herbs is committed to putting people, plants, and planet before profit in everything they do. They work hand in hand with farm partners to provide the highest quality organic herbs, spices, extracts, teas, essential oils, and DIY fare. So please visit mountainroseherbs.com for all your herbal product needs. Okay, here we go with Herbal Radio.
Today's episode features Mount Pisgah Arboretum. Mount Pisgah is a 209-acre nature preserve and education center in Eugene, Oregon that provides outdoor learning opportunities and more in the southern Willamette Valley.
So the organization of Mount Pisgah Arboretum was founded in 1973. And it was originally founded, the idea behind it originally was to have a place where trees from around the world would be planted to kind of signify world unity. And then over the years, that mission changed. So now we're a native plant arboretum. So we're really showcasing the ecosystems, native ecosystems and native plants in our area.
Yeah, nice. And what type of native plants are we? I mean, I'm sure you can't name them all because that would take the entire hour.
Name some of the ones we can see right now.
Or like some of the ecosystems. Maybe.
Yeah, what's some of the ones that are right behind you? That's actually, yeah.
I can't actually tell what's behind. I gotta look. Mostly oaks, mostly Oregon white oaks.
Yeah.
A lot of poison oak as well. Yep. And
right.
Maybe some baby ashes. Some little ashes popping up. Yep.
We're seeing a lot of osoberry. They're starting to turn yellow and drop their leaves, especially by the creek.
Yeah. That's lovely. Yeah, I love the oak savannas here in Oregon. They're so very special. To get to go. And I know Mount Pisgah has so many just beautiful old oak trees. They're just really incredible. You feel like you're just looking at a painting of what a tree should be, but it's just like, the tree is just so beautiful. So
yeah, it's special when the oaks are out, not in a crowded area, because you can really see like the glory of their full canopy and that kind of like
it's absolutely incredible, right? So okay, so it started in 73, you said.
Yes.
And the idea behind Mount Pisgah, can you kind of go into that a little bit?
Yeah, so currently the idea is, so we are a nonprofit. We're a separate nonprofit. We lease about 200 acres within Howard Buford Recreation Area. And Howard Buford Recreation Area is owned by Lane County Parks. It's Lane County's largest and most visited park. So within that park, we steward the 200 acres, and we have we run education programs, which Kevin can share more about. And we also steward that land and do site work parties, which Patrick can share more about. And then our other big aspect of our organization is we have a venue. So we host a lot of weddings or celebrations of life during the event season as well.
And festivals.
Right.
And festivals, that's true. We have
and festivals.
Well known for our Mushroom Festival in the fall and our Wildflower Festival in the spring. And then we also host some interpretive exhibits too. So out on the landscape, we have interpretive exhibits, and Mountain Rose Herbs is one of the sponsors for our incense cedar exhibit. And you all recently came out and did a work party to spruce that exhibit up, and it's looking really good right now.
Yeah, I got to see the photos of that it looks really, really incredible. And also we, I think that every in-person free herbalism project that we've had up, till to date has been at the Mount Pisgah Arboretum. So there's really just a love, we hold it near and dear in our hearts. It's really incredible. So I realized that I didn't actually start by having you introduce yourselves. So it kind of, this is new. Normally it's one person. So this like the introduction doesn't really have to happen, but I think when we have three people we should probably introduce each other and at least kind of talk about a little bit of what you do.
Yeah. You want to start, Kevin?
Sure. I'm Kevin House. I've been working here for about a year and a half, and I'm the environmental educator here. So I work with the education programs, with our field trips, and in the summer I've been working with a program that we run with the migrant education program. And I also help with the walks and workshops that we do for community members.
Nice. Nice.
And my name's Ilana Jakubowski. I'm the executive director here at Mount Pisgah Arboretum, and I've been here for a bit over a year now. And so my role is just kind of like large visioning, making sure that all of the moving pieces are moving along. Also, liaison with our board of directors, a lot of admin oversight, fundraising efforts, and then helping build out community partnerships as well.
Nice.
My name is Patrick Wegner. I'm the Habitat and Trails Manager out here. So I do mostly all site work out in our 200 acres. And I've been here about 5 years. And so I've run a lot of the volunteer groups out here, including the Mountain Rose Herbs project that was out earlier this year, and then our bi-monthly work parties also.
Nice. Okay, and who has the best job?
Considering one of these two. Really computer all day, so definitely one of these two.
Oh yeah, yeah. I like that job. Same.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I can imagine as the executive director that can get a little bit, maybe you don't spend as much time out in the the
Yes.
beautiful landscape, and
The glamorous
kind of
title,
probably
but in practice, it's just on the computer a lot. But our office is out here at the Arboretum, so anytime we can just take a walk out on the
anytime you could
that's
take that's gotta be a lovely 10-minute break time,
yes.
go and take a walk. So let's talk about a little bit about the programs that are available at Mount Pisgah, 'cause I feel like, every time I go to Mount Pisgah, it is always not crowded. There's a number of people there. Everyone's, always enjoying, uh, the trails and, everything that Mount Pisgah has to offer. It's so popular here in Eugene. It's, probably one of the most popular spots in Eugene. So I do wanna talk a little bit about, what is there to offer at Mount Pisgah.
You wanna start with the education one?
Yeah. So we do a lot kind of throughout the year, other than maybe winter. In the spring and fall, we run field trips out here that we call our Discovery Tour field trips with local elementary schools, K through 5. They'll come out here, and we have a whole bunch of volunteers who help us lead these guided tours for the kids. And so in the fall, it's all kind of about what fall looks like in these different ecosystems, what different organisms are doing to prepare for winter. And then in the spring, there's a number of different themes depending on the grades. So that's a really fun program and a great way to get kids kind of engaged in the local ecosystem. And then in the summertime, we run some kind of half-day programs that we call our summer club. We also host other camps. Nearby Nature and Whole Earth Nature School both run camps out here as well. So there's always a lot of kids out here during the summertime. We also do guided tours and workshops on the weekends for community members, or sometimes also on no school days for families. So we have, for example, a monthly bird walk that happens out here the second Sunday of every month. And we'll also have themed ones. We have some insect tours coming up. And right now we're also in the middle of a multi-part forest ecology workshop. And so those are led by kind of experts in the community who volunteer usually out here to lead those for community members. And so it's a great way to get people out here and, deepening their relationship with the ecosystem.
Very nice. Yeah. And I bet working with the kids has gotta be just so fantastic because,
Yeah, it's
their level of enthusiasm, I'm sure, is always
especially
so high.
the very young kids have maybe never noticed or seen a lot of these things before. And then as they get older, they're kind of ingesting a lot of the concepts and putting pieces together. And it's a rewarding thing to see.
One of the
So for every go ahead.
That's
Go
really
ahead.
awesome too about having this as an environmental education spot is that we are so close to the Eugene Springfield metro area. And so maybe kids whose families might not have ever been here before come out here on a field trip, and then they might encourage their parents to come back.
Yeah.
And it is, fairly close to town, pretty accessible. And so they can come back and show off all the things that they learned out here.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, so yeah, my question would be that the people that are watching this and listening to this, if you could give them maybe some pointers on ways for with their kids out in nature, how do you get them excited? How do you get them to kind of understand what nature is all about, or the importance of Mother Earth, that sort of thing?
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, I think one of the big benefits of doing education outside instead of in a classroom is that you can really allow kids to follow their own curiosity, and kind of just inspect things and ask questions. And it's all right if you don't know any of the answers to those questions, as long as you can kind of
Yeah.
ask questions along with them and
Mhm.
maybe help them find out the answers. I think that's a really important thing. And so, like, if I'm leading a tour and kids get really excited about a spider web or some ants on a stump, then we're gonna sit around and look at those and maybe break out some magnifying glasses and
Yeah.
see what we can observe. Because I think those types of moments are always worth a lot more than just kind of telling kids what a plant's name is or something like that.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Of course. Of course. And so, any other tips on, working with children? I can imagine that, do you find their attention spans to be a little shorter, or do you have to kind of make sure that you've got a lot to show them, that sort of thing?
Uh, I think obviously games and things are really nice, and
Mm,
attention spans can definitely be short. Um, but also, again, that's a thing where that's I think probably a much bigger problem in the classroom setting than it is outside, where there are a lot of things to look at, and
right. Right.
sometimes you have to just allow that attention span to be short and see what they're looking at next. And yeah, I think having some free exploration time is also just a really
Yeah, it sounds like that's kind of what your approach to, education, especially with the children, is that you kinda let them sort of steer it a bit, and what they're excited about and what they're finding, and let them explore
Mhm.
and discover.
And yeah,
Yeah,
and
that
another nice thing about our program is that we do also, like, it's led by a lot of volunteers, many of whom have been doing
Mhm.
it for several decades, and everyone has their kind of own approach to doing things, which I think is also kind of a strength of the program. So different leaders will come with different tools. We have a whole bunch of materials that they can use here, but some people will also bring their own things and do things the way they've been doing them for a long time and showing kids. A lot of people have really found over years and years of doing this ways to just really engage kids. And they know, just like with this grade, they always get really into this, so I'm gonna go by this area and we'll check that out.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think there are a lot of ways to do it, but the most important thing is really just kind of, yeah, letting kids form their own connections with nature instead of
Sure.
force it into um like I personally like to go on a walk and be told interesting facts about things,
Well, yeah.
but that's not
Well, that was
what,
gonna be my next question as far as, like, how do you work with adults? Like, I mean, what's the difference in your approach when you're, like, leading more of an adult group?
yeah. Um, well, another great thing about the adults is that there's also not a set curriculum for most of our
Mhm.
tours, and so we'll have a theme, and then we get to explore that depending on people's curiosities. So we usually the max size of our groups is around 18, and usually it's fewer than that, and uh, I usually try to. Um, get a read on where people's interests lie within whatever the topic is,
Yeah.
and then we can kind of spend time looking at those things. And yeah.
Mhm.
And one of the things that we've been doing, building out more recently, is partnering with specific community
Mhm.
organizations who are like serving a specific demographic. And so then
Mhm.
bringing in, like, for example, Eugene Adaptive Recreation. We have a partnership with them now where they'll bring out regularly scheduled groups of participants who are signed up for their program and bring them out. And so it's like a group of people that already have some sort of relationship with each other. And then we can also, our educators can work with those community organizations to really kind of adapt the nature tours, or say, okay, what are things that we should be aware of working with this group? What would this group maybe be interested in? And so kind of front load some of that shifting, just like what maybe the focus is or the pace of the walk or where they're going to based on those
Well,
populations.
and that's a great transition into kind of another question that I would have as far as being an executive director and working with all these other groups and nonprofits and organizations and sort of thing. I can imagine your plate is pretty full, but how do you determine like who you want to work with and what you're going to do with those groups once they come to Mount Pisgah?
Yeah, it's a great question. A while ago, the previous executive director and the board of directors and the staff kind of realized, like, oh, a while ago, historically, maybe, the Arboretum was really just kind of serving a specific niche of people within our community and wanting to
Mhm.
take active steps to create a more welcoming and inclusive space where a wide variety of people would feel like they could come out here and sense of representation and belonging here. So we've just started trying to collaborate with other community groups and then letting those groups and our collaboration really take the lead on developing what sort of programs we offer. So a good example of that is now we partner our education program partners with the migrant education program, which is a program from the Lane ESD.
Mhm.
So they have their own program, but one of their offerings is in the summertime, our educators, Kevin in particular, trains teens who are enrolled in the migrant education program how to be nature guides. And then
Mhm.
the migrant education program brings out groups of the younger students who are enrolled in the migrant education program, and those teens lead the nature tours for the younger students. And that program was a collaboratively developed between the Arboretum and the migrant education program to just say, okay, what is needed out here, and what within the context of what we're already able to, what we're doing, what is needed within those partner organizations. And so each of
Yeah.
those collaborations looks a little bit different because it's like we don't want to make them fit into our model. It has to be a thing that we're working together towards a mutual goal. But they've been really beautiful. And bottom line is, like, nature is for everybody. Everybody should have access to beautiful outdoor spaces. And so just how
Absolutely.
can we work together to try to make that happen?
Right. Can we talk a little bit about the way that Mount Pisgah is funded? Because I'm just curious. I know that it's owned by Lane County, but you're a nonprofit. And are you kind of running into some issues, especially with the current administration? And I think that they're kind of defunding a lot of programs. Are you faced with any challenges when it comes to that?
Yeah, so that's a great question. We are in a special space in that we are housed within a Lane County park, but we are a separate
Hmm.
nonprofit entity. So we have a lease within this park, but we're not a part of Lane County Parks, at
Okay.
all. Like,
Hmm.
we're not a government organization, we're a nonprofit. And so we get our funding from different streams. One of the backbones of our funding is our membership base. So we have members, a lot of members who have been members since the beginning or for 40 years. And so members really, you can sign up to become a member of the Arboretum. And with that, you get a parking pass to all Lane County parks, and you get our communications, our print and our e-communications, which have a lot of educational materials. You get free access to a lot of our walks and workshops. You get some free tickets to our festivals. And just also that does provide revenue for us to then run
Hmm.
our education programs and steward the site too. So membership is a big thing. Donations are a big piece. We have some really dedicated donors, and we really appreciate any donation, no matter the size, really helps us with our overhead costs. And then we have
Sure.
our venue too. As I mentioned, we have it's called the White Oak Pavilion, and it's a beautiful space. And so we host a lot of particularly weddings in the summertime will come out
Yeah.
here, and the venue helps bring in revenue to support our education and our site programs. So we really like make people know that too. It's beautiful, and it helps the organization. It helps a nonprofit too.
Right. Yeah, and for those listening, if you want that Instagram perfect wedding, you know, for the photo, that's it. You have it there. It's just
Yeah.
really incredible. Um, and then are you getting funded at all through the state, or are you getting any federal
No.
grants?
Yeah, fortunately, we are not receiving any federal funding right now. We did
Mhm.
receive some state funding through the Oregon Conservation and Recreation Fund, and that helped us fund. We just created some accessible trail loops, and so that helped us fund those improvements. But those have been
Mhm.
complete. We've received that money, so we are in a very fortunate place in that we aren't receiving any federal funding. That said, we do anticipate the landscape changing a lot, the nonprofit landscape changing a lot, and a lot of our partner organizations are receiving a lot of federal funding. They're undergoing a lot of cuts, so there just will be limited financial resources in the nonprofit sector in general. So
Mhm.
we're not directly impacted by that right now, but we are keeping a close eye on it because we feel like, we are going to be impacted vicariously. And then, of course, all of our partner organizations that are being directly impacted, we're really trying to see what we can do to support and just help them
Right,
navigate those
right.
too.
I can imagine that. I mean, obviously, I talked with a lot of nonprofits here, and I have a lot on the show, and everybody's feeling pretty nervous right now of what's going to happen. So it's great to hear that's as far as the federal funds and things, that's not having an effect on you, and that's fantastic. Um, and I hope that you can continue to be super successful, especially with like the donations and that sort of thing, because I know that
Yes.
Mount Pisgah means so much to the community here. And
Yeah.
I can imagine, and we live in a wonderful place in that, so many people here want to give back, and they understand the importance of giving to nonprofit, and that, and so feel very thankful that we get to be around that and have that community around us as well. And so, and then, I talk a lot about the importance of community on this show and this program, and talk about especially now with everything that's happening, that community is so important to make sure that you're around, people, and you're getting to have conversations. And I can imagine that there's no better place in all of Lane County than Mount Pisgah to go and have that and be around, like-minded people, and be, surrounded, and go for a walk, go out into nature, that sort of thing, and get to experience something that feels a little bit more real. Because right now I feel
Yeah.
like we just we live our life sort of on the computer, or we live our life on the phone. And I don't know about you, but I'm constantly looking to see what's the next, what's the next news, what's the next thing that's happening, and what am I going to have to worry about next. But when you're out there, it's just some of that gets to melt away. And so I so appreciate all of you and what you do.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for saying that, and that's something I've definitely been appreciating is just, like, the opportunity to have our offices out here, be out here every day, especially now
Mm,
more than ever. I can feel the therapeutic effects on my nervous system. I can feel how I come out here, and it's just it's a different vibration out here, as cheesy as that sounds. It's just, like, such a gift to have these spaces who are close in to these urban hubs, but where we can they're oases really, where we can retreat and, like you said, just kind of reorient and remember what really matters. Connection to land, connection to
right.
people, run into people on the trails, have our festivals that are great community gathering events. And now more than ever, it feels like nonprofits, especially, land trusts and nonprofits like that, we are being called to steward and protect these natural areas because we're not necessarily able to count on the federal government offering those protections anymore. And so if
Right.
we want to make sure that these landscapes and this access to nature is preserved, we need to make sure to be supporting those organizations that are holding that space and that protection.
Yeah, it's funny. I heard a conversation recently where someone was talking about, looking at the silver lining, and in that it what is happening is causing us to sort of not take things for granted. and not just sit back and think, oh, that's always going to be taken care of. That's always, the national parks are always going to exist, or the land around the national parks are always going to be there, that sort of thing. That's not the case. And that we do always need to be, uh, fighting for these treasures that we have and these natural places. And we need to really be working toward making sure that they're there for, not only us, but our grandchildren and their grandchildren.
Yes.
And
I
so
think
I think that's great. And so one way of looking at it, like, oh, this is sort of a wake up for us.
yes.
Like,
Yeah.
this doesn't always have to be there.
Yes.
This everybody having, a little bit of a fear that it can all go away, and we need to make sure that we're protecting it.
Well, I think that one thing that is really important to recognize, and we're seeing that a lot with the wildfires, is that, these ecosystems take a long time to develop and mature and take a very short time to disrupt them. And so it's like a
Yeah,
lot of change can happen in a short amount of time, and then we're never gonna see those ecosystems in our lifetime, probably not in our children's lifetimes. And so we just have
right.
to be very, very careful about how we are impacting the ecosystems, because a lot of it is, no going back, or or the span of time of going back is, like, longer than we can really imagine, and it's just
Right, way longer than we have to be on this
yeah,
planet,
yeah.
Exactly, and I think that's a great segue because I do, and something that, I did a question as far as, obviously, fire is a real risk,
Move this Patrick
for
here.
yeah, so I think we can segue now to Patrick
Our
and
site
and
manager,
because
yeah.
I want to pick his brain about, what one, about, how you keep a place so beautiful. I think that's the first big broad question is how do you do that? How do you make it, I know that nature does probably a lot of the heavy lifting for you, but really, like, the trails are always so well maintained, and everything is always, it just seems like it's perfectly immaculate when I go there.
Good
Oh,
to hear, yeah. Yeah.
yeah. You know, I can't take too much of the credit. I can't really take any of the credit. Most of our
You
work
can
on
admit.
site
Go ahead.
is done by volunteers. We run so many volunteers out here. Just this last school year, we had 15 university interns out who just were able to do so much work. Right now, it's just me and my partner Connor out here who are running um, the site out here for the Arboretum. We have one site assistant who, in the summertime, mostly focuses on venue management. And so we get a lot of community support because we can't do it all. And so a lot of our trail work, a lot of our vegetation work happens because of the outreach we get from the community. So uh, they're a big part of it.
Mhm.
Our volunteers are a big part of it. We've, you know, over the last 50 years have just been mostly we had one site manager for 40 plus years, and he had site assistants some years and then not other years. And so he mostly worked with volunteers also out here, and that's kind of how this place was built,
Mhm.
was
But
through the
I
community.
but I think it also is an important thing to note is that, you come out to places like this, and ideally, if they're run well, it does seem kind of just effortless or magical,
Hmm.
like, "Oh, wow, this is just
Yeah,
always
it
really a
does.
nice, beautiful, magical place," and it's not until you peek behind the curtains and you really see, oh, the immense amount of work, whether it's from staff or volunteers, that it takes to constantly be keep maintaining and stewarding a piece of land. Even, like, winter, we had the heavy rains, and it was like our site crew
Mhm.
was out for days afterwards regraveling the paths because there was channels, water channels down, and then a couple days later, you couldn't even tell because they had gone out there and did that. But if you hadn't come out here, you
Right,
wouldn't have seen
right,
all the work that it
Hmm.
took to get that back to that,
right.
stasis point.
Well, every time I go, it's always a little bit of an indictment, for me because I go and I see all the, and then I go back to my house and
Yeah.
like, wow, why can't my landscaping look that well maintained? And I'm like, oh, it was probably the effort. Maybe,
Yeah.
maybe it's that. Maybe it's the amount of work that you put into it. I think that's,
Uh,
so
Oh, yes.
And
But
and
with
it's a testament to keeping to, preserving those, native plant ecosystems because
Mhm.
when ecosystems are
Right.
healthy, there is a certain amount of that they're taking care of themselves, but when there are a lot of invasives coming in, then it gets totally out of
Mhm.
balance, and then that's when humans have to come in. I mean, we're the ones who messed it up in the first place, so it makes sense that we would have to come in, um, and really, try to bring it back to that point where it is just kind of this, like, paradise where it can kind of take care of itself too, but we've brought it far from there as a species, and we need to move it back in that direction.
Right, and I think I know the answer to this, but I'm gonna ask, what is the most invasive species that you have to fight?
Oh, you know, blackberries, obviously.
There it is. Yep,
Yeah,
there it is.
Himalayan blackberries. Though, and those are much easier to deal with. The hardest one we deal with on site, though, is false brome, which is a grass species that predominantly likes shaded areas, does not come out into the
Uh-huh.
sun much, but will just take over an understory in any conifer forest or anything like that. So that's
Mm,
probably the hardest one because blackberries, you can see the work and see what you did afterwards. And volunteers like that. They like to come out and be able to like look back and be like, oh yeah, we just removed all of that. Now getting
right.
volunteers to come out and be like, hey, today we're gonna pull grass doesn't really work. Um, they just it's much harder to pull grass. Nobody really wants to actually do it, and so that's probably the toughest one we deal with on site. But blackberries
Yeah,
are
yeah,
the most invasive.
yeah, the blackberries, just
Geranium.
they just
Oh,
take over.
another invasive we deal with out here, which is shiny geranium, little annual
Oh,
geranium plant that
mhm,
might be allopathic, which means like kind of gives out a chemical to disturb other plant growth that hasn't actually been like studied and whatnot, but that's just what the general consensus is in the community. So when
mhm,
it's self seeds twice a year, so it puts out a growth in the spring, dies back, and then those seeds will grow again in the fall after the first rain. So it's a really hard one to like get under control,
mhm,
but we mostly focus on it in areas that we don't want it, like some of our beds and garden flower beds and all that. We'll take it out, but it's pretty predominant in the understory and whatnot in some of the bigger
sure.
ecosystems out here. So
And what about fire protection? So what's some ways that you work to make sure that, you're mitigating, at least, uh, or trying to mitigate, like, what can happen when a fire
yeah, so
breaks out?
yeah, that's like so fuel reduction is a big part of our job out here, which trees grow, plants die, they drop leaves, they build up fuel, and if we don't create a disturbance, which we call our work kind of a disturbance, if we don't go through there and remove a lot of this stuff, we'll build up those fuels. So if
Mhm,
a fire does break out, um, it can be pretty harmful to the ecosystem out here. So, annual maintenance is mowing fire breaks. So we have 8 miles of trails. We try to keep heavy vegetation, woody vegetation or fuels reduced along our trails so that there are gaps in fuels so that if a fire does break out, potentially it will stop along our trail system. And it gives us
sure.
a place to um, allow vehicle access or allow humans to access to fight these fires if needed.
Yeah,
So we mow a lot of fire breaks right before fire season and then throughout fire season. And then continually, like, especially after the 2024 ice storm, we're just heavily pulling out a lot of woody material, a lot of big trees um,
mm,
that have fallen. We're not like going through there and cutting down a bunch of trees, but a lot of stuff that has fallen throughout the years. We'll go in there and either uh, buck it up into smaller pieces so it degrades faster and we can leave it on the soil floor. Or if it's a big, heavy, like canopy that came down that will makes it really easy for blackberries to grow through. We see this a lot with oaks and ashes where they got a lot of limbs. When they fall down, if we don't go in and remove those limbs, or at least get those limbs to the ground, it's just a vector for invasive species because it's harder for us to
Sure.
get in and remove those species. And so we're continually removing those. And the fun part right now is trying to figure out how to get those. We've done chipping, we've done pile burning. This last spring, we did a big incinerator where we were creating biochar to be able to use in plantings on
Oh,
site. Um,
yeah.
and then we'd make habitat piles, like controlled brush piles in areas where we're not too concerned about fire starting up, or we can make a break around these brush piles to give homes to little critters,
Yeah.
mice, field mice, voles,
And I just got to make a
bunnies.
plug for all of this mowing that's
Yeah.
happening right now. We're actually right now actively fundraising for a new tractor with mower attachments. Our current
Mm.
tractor is very old, and I feel like the site
Yep.
guys spend more time fixing it than they're able to actually spend mowing it. And so we're fundraising for a new tractor that will also allow us to mow on slopes and just mow in a more fire safe way, because the mowing happens in front rather than in back. And so that's, having the right equipment for the job is a big piece of it. And of course, equipment
Right.
is money. So we
Yep.
are fundraising for that right
Right.
now.
Yep.
Right. And I do have one other question as far as the maintenance, or as far as the trails. How do you deal with yellow jackets?
This time of year, it's pretty all consuming. Like my partner, coworker out here, we spend every day, we go kind of, we have a kind of an idea of where most of these nests are that affect our core area. Yellow jackets way out in the meadows and all that, where they're away from trails, away from people. We don't
Mhm.
worry about too much. But right now we're in our picnic grotto, and one of our picnic tables is very close to a yellow jacket nest. And a lot of that, if it's early enough in the season, we can catch it. There's a number of organizations out there or companies out there who will come out and remove nests for you. As long as you haven't
Mhm.
sprayed them with pesticides or anything like that, they'll come out and remove them
Sure.
for you. But as seasons go by, we've done everything from trying to come out in the evening and vacuuming out the nests. We've tried putting glass bowls over the nests, and that fools the yellow jackets into thinking they can still leave their nests, and they practically starve themselves because they don't
Mhm.
realize they can't fly, because we use the glass bowls so they can still see the sky. We've used that method. We have used um, bebop spray cans before. That's kind of,
Mhm.
if they're really close to our core areas, so our pavilion or bathrooms or picnic areas, we'll use bee spray. And then other times it's just we'll bury them. So we'll just get the tractor and just dump a thing of dirt over the mound, and just
Over the nest.
over the nest, over the opening, and bury them. But yeah, if anybody's got any suggestions, it's an
Well, yeah, because living here in the Pacific Northwest, I mean, I know it's everywhere, but here just, and especially in the fall, they start to get so aggressive.
yep.
Yeah.
You get anywhere near a nest and they're gonna come after you, and
Well, that's something that
it's a
we kind of
real issue.
into our education programs, because we get a lot of kids out here that don't spend a lot of time out in nature. Maybe this is their first experience out in nature. We want that to be a positive connection for them. So if they can't even open their lunchbox without getting swarmed with yellow jackets, or they get stung,
Right.
like that could form a lasting impression that we don't want. We want to avoid
Yep.
if possible.
Yes, exactly.
I lo-
So, what is some of the future plans for Mount Pisgah? What do you have on the horizon?
Good question. I don't know if you guys want to come in here or not. It needs to be all on me. So we actually just finished our 5-year strategic plan, which is really exciting. And that kind of outlines some of our goals for the next 5 years. I wish I could rattle them off by memory, but I can't. But it's on our website. You can find the 5-year strategic plan. We're definitely planning to continue. We've been putting a lot of energy recently into accessibility. And so we, like we mentioned, we just improved some trail loops, and we actually just got funding from Travel Oregon to redo our informational kiosks to make them more accessible too. So we're going to put them, bilingual and lower the height and more physical accessibility, make some kind of audio option for people with low vision too. And then we are trying to find funding. We submitted some grants to do some ADA bathroom upgrades too. So just trying to, make it so people can, with a variety of especially physical limitations, can show up on site and just be able to enjoy out here. And as well as continuing to partner with those community groups. Like we're right now establishing a relationship with NAACP. We partner with Plaza de Nuestra Comunidad to host some groups out here on site too. So just trying to really help this place feel like it is a gift to the community, the whole Eugene Springfield. Anyone who lives here should feel welcome here and a sense of belonging.
Yeah.
Those are some of the
Well,
things we're focusing on.
I think that everyone who lives here, I think that you've done such a wonderful job at making it so welcoming. Like it is an absolute treasure to have, here in Eugene, here in Springfield. It's incredible for us to be able to have this so close by. What a gift. I think I said that earlier. It's just an absolute gift for us living here in Eugene.
Well, it's
So
definitely an
thank you.
honor. I feel like, I don't know if I speak for everybody, but I speak for myself. Like I've lived in Eugene for 20 years, and I've definitely, been coming out here as a community member the whole time. And so it feels just like an honor to help be part of the organization it's like, I feel like I'm taking my turn to steward this special community place, help run the festivals that I've enjoyed coming to for so many years. And it's just, we all need to put the energy into making sure that these special places continue to thrive. And so it also feels just like an honor to be able to do that for work and to show up here every day and help move that forward.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for being on. We are so excited to have, the three of you talk with us about, your work and, what you're doing and talk about such a special place for us. Because obviously for Mountain Rose Herbs, like Mount Pisgah, we just absolutely love it. So thank you so much.
We want to do a special shout out to Mountain Rose Herbs too. It's been such a special partnership, as just like a business partnership. And, just recently you all donated some beautiful gift baskets for our volunteer appreciation event. Sent that team out here to, upkeep the incense cedar exhibit, provided funding for that exhibit from the get-go, always sponsor our festivals. And so it's a really special partnership, and we just really appreciate it.
Well, we love you to death, and we so appreciate everything that you do, and anything that you need in the future, please just let us know, because we couldn't imagine partnering with a better nonprofit than Mount Pisgah. Just lovely.
Thank you so much. Now go
Thank you. I will. Actually, I'm going to go for a walk right after this. I have the wetlands here, so it's kind of nice. Yeah. So I get to go out and be in some really nice nature as well. So I'm looking forward to that. Well, and I will be out to Mount Pisgah very soon. So
great. Feel free to pop into our office. It'd be great to meet you.
I will. I definitely want to say hello. Okay. Yes. Well, thank you so much for being on.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful day. Okay.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
You too.